Do you know, koi can be like, I don't know, it's almost like, I don't know, it's like it almost punishes you because I think sometimes when you solve a problem, you get more questions because, like we say, that mucus has gone now, but it's like, well, why is it gone?
Yeah,
What
what
was it?
caused it? Yeah.
What's caused it? And
But in
I,
my eyes, I was just glad that it had gone and my fish were
Yeah.
looking better. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But should we just look at the hobby and say, particularly when, and is that why there's less problems with Israeli koi, Polish koi, with Japanese koi? Is it like you said at the start, Andy? It's just that we take them out of this incredible water that is very conducive to their well-being, and we dump them in what is quite frankly crap water in this
Yeah,
country.
the
Is that
chemical
just
soup.
is that just what it is? Is it as
Well,
simple as that?
I think when you look at those fish who are coming out of Japan and the pedigree, really, they've been interbred to get whatever style they want to get a koi. And that water that's pure they've been living in, and we drop them in this chemical soup. I mean, I suppose if you took a water report to Japan with you, Joe, next time you go, and showed it to Japanese people over there and said, this is what our fish live in over in the UK, and they'd laugh at you and say, why you do that?
yeah.
You know, it's just bonkers.
I'd love to see them make like a green tea with our water and taste it because I think
It'd be
they
brown.
absolutely find it disgusting.
I've had green tea at a customer's house. First time I'd ever had it, and he was a Japanese guy, and he invited me in. He says, "Would you like a cup of tea?" I said, "Yeah, I'll have a cup of tea." And he brought green tea. First time I'd have drunk it. It was nice, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to see him make it with my water because my water, as I said, is junk anyway. It's got a taint in it before we put anything in it.
If we compare, Joe, then, so my pond, I've got a high pH because I buffer up the KH. So obviously, what's the natural pH of sodium bicarbonate? It's up at 9, isn't it? Is it 8.4? Right, yeah. So
that's the neutral part of that. Yeah, so
my pH is about 8 in my pond, but my KH is 6. I never go more than 6 because I was told that above 6 is wasted. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Andy. With KH.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to advocate what KH you should run. People say it should be 5 for your filters and everything else.
Okay.
I personally, I will advocate. I think having a lower KH allows for in sunny time, and you've got like a pagoda over your pond, aren't you, Dave? So it's less for you. But obviously, when sun is on, if you've got full sun on a pond that's at that kind of pH, that's where I start getting a little bit like nervous from my perspective in terms of the higher the pH, the more it swings, or when you've got sun on it and then on a night time. And then to me, the pH swings is where your issues come from. Like personally, if you run a pH a little bit lower, like 7.5, something like that, that to me is ideal at a KH like 3.
Yeah.
And then swings when sun comes in and goes out, the swings are much lower. Somebody told me that the difference between 8.0 and 8.1 is almost as big as the difference between 7.5 and 8.
Yeah, when you look at ammonia, toxicity and water, so pHs have got a bearing on that. The higher the pH, the more toxic ammonia is. And there's a graph on Mankey Sankey's website telling you that, showing that sort of thing. And I've had this lots of times with people. If you test at the same time of day every single week, so just say, for argument's sake, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and you test your pH, that's going to be its lowest level in the pond. That's the natural level in the pond. Go through the day, photosynthesis, everything else. I've said to people, test your pond at 5 o'clock at night. I bet you it's higher than what it is at 7 in the morning. No. No, my pH has always been stable, rock hard, same thing every day. Just do me a favour, test it at 5 o'clock at night. Yeah, I'll do that. Ring me up. Why is my pH higher at 5 o'clock? Photosynthesis. What's all that then? So, yeah, it does alter through the day. And different levels, I said today, I've had one customer's told me one tap water test they did, and it's down south in the country, pH of 4 out of the tap. Now that is bizarre.
Crazy.
That's a killer, because back to testing and these talks I do, fundamental thing on testing, if you're testing regular enough, you shouldn't get a pH crash. pH crash happens over a period of time. It's not like somebody flicking a light switch and okay, if you're at a pH of 7, it could be like flicking a light switch. If you turn off your trickle in and there's no buffer going in here, or you're not adding bicarb, then it will crash, because fish produce CO2 converted to carbonic acid. It erodes pH, it slides. If you're on the ball, you're adding minerals to the wall. So minerals to the wall, you're adding KH to the water through your buffer, which is your tap water, or you're using bicarb. So that pH crash shouldn't happen. But in this situation I've just mentioned, if you're saying, people say to me all the time, my pH has always been 7.5, always. When was the last time you tested? 10 years ago. Mate, it doesn't have to be that now. And the problem is, if you get blasé about all this and you say, okay, my pH was 7.5 last week. I've just had a pH crash. I tested the tap water and it's 4. Where's the pH crash come from? The water they've put in the ponds been acidic and it's crashed the pond. So, as I say, getting back to testing, this is the most important thing. You can get cheap test kits, whether they're like liquid test or whatever, anything you want to mention, any type, API, Colombo, whatever it is. If you're testing, you're in control. If you're blasé and say, nah, I don't need to test, that's when it's going to bite you. And it will bite and you'll lose fish.
But
yeah,
I think it is, we talk about the Japan standards, and I really don't want to make it out like that's what you should chase, is because it's so unachievable, and I think you can drive yourself potty. Like, I know Andy probably sells a lot of the Blue Lab Guardian products and like the things where you've got the parameters. I'm really resistant against. I'm not saying the bad products. They're probably brilliant. They are a good product, but I know personally, if I had that on my filter house, I would be chasing certain things, and I almost prefer to do the weekly drop test so I don't look at it all the time, because I think I'd be like a bit too trying to replicate that Japan 7.0 pH. I'm really trying to.
I think the thing that scares me, Joe, is that the Blue Lab are very reliable, aren't they? But what we're seeing the market flooded with this year is, and I won't mention the brand name, but I think most of us will be aware of where they're from or who they are, is we're seeing a lot of inaccurate testers, things that are claiming to do, 3,000 in one.
Yeah.
But actually, I think we've all had a go of them. Some are not too bad for a while, but very quickly become inaccurate.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a Blue Lab Guardian, and like you, Joe, I'm doing things different to everybody else, and there's, sometimes you've got to be on the ball with what I'm doing. But if I open the filter house door and that Blue Lab Guardian says a pH of 7.1, I'll shut the door.
Yeah.
Right. If it reads 6.8, the first thing I test is for alkalinity, KH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's got any reading above 2 or 3 alkalinity, there's still going to be pH there. There's still the buffer in the water. I'll do something about it, but if I'm in a rush, I'll go out and I'll come back later on in the day and sort it out. So it's only a guideline. And the problem with electronic equipment, and I agree with you in one respect, Joe, there's people rely on electronic equipment, but you've got to back that up. And so if you went to your pond and the Blue Lab Guardian's reading 6.5 and you panic, the first thing you do, get bicarb out, bosh, it's in. You've not checked your probe, and you pull your probe out after you've boshed it with blooming bicarb, and you look at your probe and it's dirty. Hold on a minute, you've had a false reading. Clean it with a toothbrush, do whatever you want to do with it, put it back in a pond. Your pond was 7.1. Now it's 8 because you just boshed all that bicarb in. So always do a backup test. If you want to do a liquid test on the back of a Blue Lab Guardian, they're only a guide.
Yeah.
And they're only as good as they're calibrated. So if we're out of calibration, mate, you ain't got a chance.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Joe.
the best of it is as well, that's got a light to tell you you need to calibrate it once a month.
I'm sure they're brilliant products. It's just, and like I say, I can see for those people that will use it. I think from my side, I'd be chasing like, like when you turn the volume down on your TV, and I'll never put it on an even number.
Oh, I'm the other way. I won't put it on an odd number.
Yeah, that's the way. You won't put it on 21. You'll put it on 20. I would be like putting a teaspoon in and just because I know that's who I am, and I know it sounds stupid, but I think it's almost that peace of mind thing doing the drop test. I don't know.
Well, put it this way, Joe. You're testing, and that's brilliant. That's the thing you've got to be doing. You've got to be testing, not take it for granted, and not say it was like that 5 years ago or whatever it was. As long as you're doing a regular testing once a week's fine, and it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes of your life. So what?
Yeah.
Your fish are going to be fine for it. That's down to. I would rather somebody test and do a test. Don't have to do an electronic test. I mean, okay, they're there. And people use them, and I've used them, and I've got a bench meter, an Anna bench meter, and I test with that. But I'm looking at different things, and I've even got an ammonia monitor now that I've yet to fit on the pond because I'm too busy, and that's another story completely.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's as long as you're testing, you are actually monitoring what's going on in your pond.
And who didn't want a science kit as a kid, Joe? Come on. I mean, what helps me, I find if I put a white jacket on and some big goggles and do it, I feel quite good about myself.
Dr. Dave.
We'll expect to see the video next week.
So, last question from me then. On a scale of 1 being not so important and 10 being extremely important, how important is water clarity to you all? I'll start with Dave.
Right, well, interesting question, Joe, but definitely not prompted. I have got a tinge to my water. I'm only on balance now, so Saki balance. I am feeding quite a lot. They're fed sort of 6, 7, 8 times a day, but I've got this really annoying tinge, and that's why I've turned to the pond detox. I'm hoping that it takes that tinge out. But clarity is fantastic in my pond, but the slight yellow tinge,
that'll be down to the colouring of the food.
Every time I walk up to my pond, it just drives me mad, absolutely mad. So clarity is fine in my pond, but colour, drives me mad, Joe.
So how important is it then to have crystal clear water to you? Is it a 10?
It's up there, 8 or 9, if I'm honest.
Si, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too fussed on it being crystal clear. Obviously, I'd like to be able to see my fish. I like to be able to see what's going off in case any problems crop up or anything like that. But I mean, I am in a stage. I'm still feeding my fish growth food. I'm still heated quite high, really, and I'm still putting the food in to carry on growing the fish through the winter. So obviously, I mean, like Dave says, I have got that bit of tannins to the water, but it's to be expected when you're feeding a grow food, So in that regard, it don't bother me so much because I know that you can't have crystal clear water when you're growing fish. So in that sense, it don't bother me so much.
You should seek refuge in me, though, because I've gone back to balance and I'm still getting that tinge, those tannins. So that's good. You should carry on feeding growth, knowing that it would still do it anyway, even if you went back to balance. So I was thinking about it down the pond yesterday when I was doing my filter clean and that, and my maintenance. I thought I may as well go back up to growth. The only reason why I come off growth was because of the tinge, and I still got it. So sod it. So yeah, when I go up the shop this week, I'll be getting some more growth. Chuck it in.
For yourself, Andy, out of 10, what's water clarity up there for you?
Difficult question for me because what I'm doing is filtering water not like you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's coming out of a drum at 70 micron, and that's what's going into your ponds. Mine's going through 20 micron pre-filters, 5 micron, and through an RO system.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So the clarity is, well, brilliant. But Andy Daly came a few years ago. He did a video on my pond, and it went viral. Last time I saw it, 187,000 views it had, and that clarity, that water, I'd PP'd the pond 2 days earlier, and he couldn't get over how clear it was. Doesn't mean anything really in the big scheme of things, because if I didn't have a pagoda on the top of the pond and you got a load of sunlight, I suppose you could get sunburn on fish. That's the other thing people don't think about.
Yeah.
So, you've got to look at it two ways round. It's not important to me, but it's a byproduct of what I'm doing to my pond. So,
Yeah.
I can't really answer that because it probably, well, I don't know, I can't say.
Yeah.
If you was looking at, if I was saying out of 10, what's your clarity of your pond, I'd say 10.
Yeah.
That's a different question altogether.
Oh,
It's not
mine's 11, Andy.
important. It's not important, but it's just a byproduct of what I'm doing.
I've actually, when we were talking about going back to like the water changes, for me personally, as long as I'm doing the 10% changes a week, where I think I'm getting rid of those hormone build-ups and them kind of things, where it's not having that teabagging effect, the actual water clarity side of things for me, it's like a 3 out of 10. I've actually seen, like in my time in koi, some extremely impressive results in ponds absolutely loaded with organics in the water. Absolutely loaded. And I also wonder how much of that produces healthy skin mucus as well, the actual mucus coating, because of this amount of organics in the water. So for me, it's really, really down the list in terms of things for water clarity. That as well, I do love green water as well, as so long as you're not getting huge pH swings.
So what would you, Joe? You've just come back from Japan. What's the water clarity like over there, where they're feeding in the concrete ponds?
When they're feeding in the concrete ponds, the water clarity is generally not particularly brilliant. It's clear because every day they're dropping vortexes or dropping the filter bays, so they're always having to top it up with fresh water. And the benefit for them is then a lot of they have the shade. A lot of them have the shades as well. I mean, they do put a lot of onus on making sure that if it is clear water, the sunlight's not severe.
When I've done deliveries from Japan with some of the shops like Koi Water Barn and that, the general consensus when we're looking through the boxes is the more well-known the breeder and the better the quality you associate with them, the dirtier the water was. When we looked at the Dainichi stuff, and the Dainichi stuff come in with the Sakai Jumbo Tozo as well, the water, it wasn't that great. It had that tinge to it like we've got. It was slightly green. Is there something there? Are we trying to keep our water... The other thing I would say is I don't condone teabagging your koi, Joe. I'm not sure if that means something different up there than it does down here, but teabagging your koi.
Remember next time I go to Joe's not to have any cooked tea then.
It is interesting. What about clay products? We've spoken about detox. We've spoken about that, and the new complete detox does contain minerals and things like that. Si, do you use clay products?
I do, yeah. I will have to mention
of course.
names.
Yeah.
Well, the two main ones what I like to use personally are the Bacto Plus Clay and the JPD Mud Booster stuff. I really like them. They seem to do a really good job. What I've found though is there's been differences between them. I've tend to find that when I've used the JPD Mud Booster, that's really made the water sparkle.
Okay.
But when I've used the Bacto Plus stuff, it's sent to give a much more shine to the fish, if you know what I mean. And that's my findings on it anyway. But I like to try and use it maybe, I don't know, once a month or something like that.
Do you use it for...
Yeah, go on, Joe.
Sorry, mate. Use it for conditioning your water or conditioning skin, or a bit of both?
Probably a bit of both, really. I mean, I did use a lot more clay than I usually would leading up to the junior koi show, what I did. because of it's said to be, if there's more silicates in the water, it can help the sumi come through and things like that. So that's why I was using it more leading up to the show. Yeah, it's I do like using it.
Go on, Dave.
I remember what I was going to say now. It's
Well, do you use Clade?
No, I haven't, and it's something I have. A few people have said to me they use it and they get really good results. I think, what's the one that sounds like a rude word? Fock. That's it. They use that and they sell it in my local dealer, and a lot of people absolutely swear by it. Did you say silicates, Si?
Yeah, yeah.
So is that related to silicon, or is that related to more your cements, your lime and things like that?
I'm not sure, to be honest with
The silicates in water. When you look at your water report, the silicates in water. So that's all made up with your TDS and all that lot of stuff. And it's got a bearing on someone else, and I can't remember what it is now.
Do you know what's interesting is when I was in Japan, one of the things they said to me is that when they have, so there was a koi farm, and there'll be a video coming out about this. So they have some raising ponds outside. Some of them had liners, and some of them just had concrete wall. And the ones with the concrete wall were known to develop sumi better than the ones that were linered. That
is why I asked. So silicosis. Yes, in the construction industry, one of the biggest things after asbestos now, or it's set to overtake asbestos, the biggest health concern within the construction industry is silicosis, which comes, you catch that on your lungs from cement. Now, if them ponds are concrete, the water is slowly breaking down that cement that's in that concrete. So something that is actually deadly to us seems to be beneficial to koi.
Yeah, in promoting sumi specifically. Interesting. What about yourself, Andy? Do you use any clay products? I mean, obviously, reverse osmosis, for people that don't know, will strip a lot of the natural minerals out of your water. So there'll be some people out there that say if you run RO, you need to be putting some minerals back in. But I know you're not particularly a subscriber to that, are you?
No, I don't use clays.
No.
I've used that new detox, but many, many years ago, when we first got into doing sort of different lotions and potions, we'll put it, and one well-known dealer was advocating a certain product, and their koi club were using it, and we joined the koi club and we used it, put it in a pond, and fish flicked and flashed, and you're thinking, what the hell's going on here? And did I see a benefit? Probably not. And it wasn't until I spoke to Mike Snaden, and he spoke about water, and I thought, mate, you're making some sense here. This is different again, where you're looking at water out of your pan, and you're trying to mimic it. I don't say that it's for everybody. It's not for everybody. And I spend more time talking to people that are buying RO units than I do anything else. Reverse osmosis strips all the stuff out of your water, makes the water acidic, makes it soft water. You have to buffer it. There's a lot more to it than just using it. And when he spoke about all this, and he said, what are you using in your pond? I said, using this, and I'm using it. Why? I said, well, I don't know. People say you've got to use it. And it said, well, where do you think the fish in Japan get all the minerals from? There's no minerals in the water in Japan. Where are they getting the food from? Where are they getting the minerals from? Is it out of the mud ponds that's devoid of most things? They put lime in there and this, that and the other to condition the mud and whatever, kill off all the parasites. And I'm thinking, you're making more sense than anything. So I think they get it out of food, the minerals. So that's what, I don't put anything in my pond. I've used the detox, and I'll say it again, it does do what it's doing. But apart from that, it's just food. And I'm saying I'm stripping stuff out of my pond. So I'm taking stuff out my tap water now. I don't use any tap water in my pond at all now, except for conditioned tap water that's run from an RO system. As I said earlier, I'd had fish flicking and flashing when I was buffering with purified tap water. It stopped. Why has it stopped? Because I think there was something in the water, like Simon said early on, this mucus, I had this touch of mucus on. I thought, where the hell's this come from? I've been buffering my tap water, using tap water as a buffer in my pond for the RO system, and it's been fine. And all of a sudden, these fish have got mucus on. I've tested everything, can't find anything. Well, I will get to the bottom of this. I'll turn off the tap water and just run RO complete. And like Simon, I didn't put anything in the pond to detoxify it. I just run the RO, and the mucus disappeared. So something was in that tap water, and it was irritating the fish. So, yeah, it's. I think it's going to get worse, and it's not going to get any better.
No,
you're looking at different pollution levels, what's in rivers and stuff like that. And I had to smile to myself. One of the talks I do a photo of my waterworks, where my water comes from. And it used to be on the board sewerage works. Because of this day and age, and politically correct, now it's a recycling centre. Not a sewerage works, but it's full of sewage.
Yeah.
It's recycled, obviously. But there you go. It's difficult, it is, in this day and age, keeping koi. And as I said earlier, you're either thriving or surviving. But as long as you're regularly testing, and you've got some water purification on there, on your water, that's the best thing going forward. There's a lot more to it than that, but at least you're doing something.
Yeah. No, I've really enjoyed that chat, and I hope that people out there will gain something from it. And for the novices, there's a lot of information in there, and some things I wish I'd have known when I was a novice. So if we can give back that little bit of information, that's why we started this podcast, isn't it? I really appreciate your time tonight, Andy. I think we're probably going to have to split this over 2 episodes, or probably already have if you're listening to this, because there's quite a lot of content to go through here. But I'm really excited for seeing what people make of it. I think what I'd like to do is, if people have any questions, it'd be really awesome for people to submit them either by email or in the comments, and maybe we can get you back on and do a bit of a Q&A if people have some questions for you.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, no problem.
Because it'd be nice to have you involved. It's such a massive subject, is water conditioning. So if we can have you back on, and we'll do a little Q&A. So leave your comments for Andy, or email me, either way.
I think honestly, Joe, we've just scraped the surface tonight of what's going on with our water, and there's like you say, there's loads more to it. So
yeah, absolutely. So if you are in need of any water purification advice, feel free to give Andy a ring on Finch Filtration. His number is 0755 194 34947, or you can get him at sales@finchfiltration.co.uk. And go check out Si at Simon.
Hello, already.
You even responded when you was going on holiday, didn't you?
Yes.
Bless your heart. You know, my silly questions, my amateurish questions, you still answered, bless you. So, yeah, no, I really appreciate it.
Then you didn't read my reply.
I know, that was terrible. This morning I picked that up. I pestered Andy for something for ages, and then I went to pester him again today, and he sent it ages ago. I was like, oh no, this is embarrassing. But no, honestly, you've been fantastic, really helpful. It's good to have you here tonight, like Joe says.
And make sure to go and check out Si at Up North Koi Pond and Dave at Eden Koi Pond as well.
Yeah,
on
don't
YouTube.
feel like you got to, though.
And we'll all look forward to seeing Dave in his scientist outfit next doing his water test.
I'm going to pull it out of the bag. I had a unicorn on this week. I'll have a science coat on when I do my Big Blue video. I'm hoping the video with the Big Blue, just from the title, because outside the koi industry, the old Big Blue means something else, doesn't it? So I'm hoping to pick up some views from some gentlemen that are struggling a little bit. Good views are views, aren't they? You can't be picky.
Very true. But I've had a really good time. Hope you guys have enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe to the Koi Perspective. We've got a free magazine coming out every month on the 1st of the month, and we're going to be doing this podcast weekly, so you can get it in all your podcast apps and YouTube as well. But thanks, guys, again. Have a good evening, and we'll see you again next week.
I'm going to go and die in silence. I'll see you later on.
Oh dear.
Laters.
Yeah.